Fan, where we talk about the good, the bad, and everything that made you sad from the previous week. And we're going to talk a little bit about next week as well in this episode. We're going to start in a place where we don't typically start. We're going to start with the NBA, and it'll be quick. I promise we're going to get to the weekend in college football and the weekend in the NFL. But right now, where we are at with the NBA and with Joel Embiid and the 76ers, with the 76ers hardly playing Joel Embiid at all, the 76ers vastly underperforming where their expectations were at. And still, that currently has them sitting atop the Eastern Conference, which is wild to me. So where am I going with this? Well, if you followed the show for a while, you know that we are Golden State Warriors fans, all but Wes, our Golden State Warriors fan. We love that brand of basketball, and we want to see that team perform well. So Joel Embiid, not needed on the 76ers. The Warriors, in need of somebody other than Draymond Green. They already are the Golden State Unks, so why not add another Unk to that mix? Why not add Joel Embiid? Why not inquire with the 76ers having that young man, you know who he is, playing absolutely out of his mind. Maxi's playing well. Why would they not be open to trade talks with the Golden State Warriors? Personally, it's the writing's on the wall. Edgecombe is the heir apparent to what Joel Embiid was supposed to be with the process. And if they're already atop the Eastern Conference, why not see what you can get for a Joel Embiid in this economy? Why not take a look and see what teams like the Golden State Warriors are willing to offer? Because the Golden State Warriors obviously have some pieces, but what they're going to need is someone like a Joel Embiid to really enforce dominance inside the post. They don't have that right now. They've got Draymond, he looks very old already after 7 games. The Warriors came out hot again for the second year in a row and are immediately at 4-3. So why not take a risk on this for both teams? It could be lucrative for both teams, and it could make the general management team of the Golden State Warriors look really good. This seems like a match made in heaven, and this seems like a trade that needs to happen. Because if we're going to have Joel Embiid be a backup for the 76ers as opposed to acquiring assets for such a good player, then it's a waste of a season because they're not the best team in the East. They just are today. When it comes playoff time, that is a team that gets eliminated. Why not put together pieces that make sure that is not a team that gets eliminated moving forward? Make sure that that is a team that will earn a top seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs and can compete for a championship bid. Why not? So Texas continues to confuse, confound, and amaze us with how they are playing as of late. Now, Texas, some days you're going to get Texas and you're going to be like, wow, Texas. And other days you're going to get Texas and be like, yeah, like they're not as good as we thought they were going to be. This was one of those days where we got, wow, Texas, as they took on Vanderbilt, who was a top 10 ranked team, and looked phenomenal. They looked great. Arch looked very good. The defense is still very solid in Texas. So when you look at that team, you think that is a team that can compete. That team, the team that played against Vanderbilt, is a team that could be in the playoff. But I don't think we're going to see it because right now, the SEC is filled with teams that play terrible schedules and play 2 good games. Okay? You've got Alabama. You've got Georgia, who should have lost to Florida. Georgia should have lost to Florida. They had no business winning that game against Florida, yet somehow they managed. It's crazy that you have Georgia here because Georgia honestly was on the brink of death about 17 times. Georgia has been on the brink of being knocked out of these playoff races a million times. It's crazy because Georgia has consistently underperformed as well. Georgia is one of those teams that you expect to get eliminated come playoff time. You don't expect to see Georgia do anything. Their luck will run out. Then you've got Alabama. Maybe they're better than we thought. We saw them take on a Florida State team and get annihilated by a Florida State team that now we can all say they're awful. They're trying to figure out a way to fire Mike Norvell. There's too many teams right now looking for a head coach for that to be feasible. They're not going to be one of the top destinations for some of these top head coaches that will be available. So you got to think it's going to be Penn State and it's going to be Florida that the big coaches are looking at. That's your top tier. And then you're going to have teams, again, Florida State will decide what they're about to do. You're going to, LSU, will also be a part of that top tier coaching search. You've got UCLA already looking for a coach. You're going to have Stanford looking for a coach, which is going to be harder for them to find a top-tier coach. But you have all these teams. So if you're Florida State, you've got to figure something out. Do you fire him and jump into this, or do you keep Norvell around for next season and see what he can put together? You're kind of stuck in the middle with nothing to do. Anyway, what does that have to do with Texas? What does that have to do with Texas? Again, Alabama is another perplexing team. Are they as good as we think they are, or are they just an aberration? Are they another team that's going to get knocked out as the playoffs come? We've lost a few teams already that I thought were going to be very good, to include Miami. With Texas still lingering around, is that a team we actually want to see enter the playoffs? What are the teams we want to see in the playoffs? Obviously, we want to see Ohio State at this point, Indiana at this point. Ohio State's going to walk into the playoffs if you look at their schedule. If they lose to Michigan this year, I don't know what to say. Because Michigan isn't where they should be. They're going to destroy Purdue next week. There's just no one that can stop them. Texas A&M looks great. I think the only thing standing in Texas A&M's way at this point is going to be the SEC championship. And then you've got the rest. Those are the Oregons. We don't really know who they are. The Ole Miss, we don't really know who they are. Undefeated BYU. I think that they won't be undefeated. I think they're going to probably lose in that Big 12 championship. But you've got them hanging around. Texas Tech, are they more than a defense? Notre Dame. Who's Notre Dame? Now does that loss look worse to Miami? Probably. There's this big, mushed up mess of teams that we have no idea if they're good or not. And those teams are going to end up in the playoffs. And now we have to decide, is this what's best for college football? Yeah, it'll be parity, but we can't decide if these teams are even good. I love Ole Miss, but I don't know if they're that good. I think they are. They look that good by the eye test. Georgia Tech, they looked great. They look like they could be unstoppable. They lose this weekend to a team they should beat. So all of these teams are just running up against each other and getting eaten alive by their own conference. They're being cannibalized. And we really have three teams that we're pretty certain are good in Indiana, in Ohio State, and Texas A&M. Alabama, maybe. Oregon, maybe. Georgia, I don't think they're good, but maybe. Okay. Ole Miss, maybe. Ole Miss lost the game they absolutely should have won, and it was a test game, right? They lost the game to Georgia that they absolutely should have had. And instead of taking that game and putting the SEC on notice, they lost that game, and they are who we thought they were at this point. Okay? Ole Miss is a team with all offense and no defense. We crushed that point last week. Are there more upsets in the pipeline? Yeah, probably. Let's take a look at aforementioned BYU, Texas Tech. Is this the week that Texas Tech cements we are the best team in the Big 12 by taking out that undefeated BYU team? It could be, because Texas Tech is a very real team. The loss was unexpected, and I think that Texas Tech is going to take that game. Texas Tech is actually favored in this game by 10.5 points. What does that tell you about what Las Vegas thinks of BYU? And then you have a tricky matchup between Missouri and Texas A&M. Does Texas A&M take their foot off the gas and fall asleep at the wheel here against a Missouri team that is, it's okay, but definitely beatable, definitely not on the level of Texas A&M? Or does Texas A&M put the hammer down? And finally, we have Alabama and LSU. LSU with an interim coach. Are they going to have that interim coach magic and take out a very tough Alabama out? Are they going to show us that Alabama is not as good as they've looked since the loss to Florida State? Or is this just another game where Alabama continues to confuse us, where it comes down to the wire, which it could, it very well could, where it comes down to the wire, and we wonder, is Alabama that good? Is LSU better than we thought? This weekend can determine a whole lot moving forward as we approach the end of the season. Again, the last test for your Ohio State Buckeyes is going to be Michigan. And I don't see a world where Michigan can win that game, but I didn't see a world where Michigan could win that game last year, and I was wrong. So that just shows you right now in this era of college football, in this era of NIL, in this era where SMU can take out a Miami team that is so desperate, a Mario Cristobal that is so desperate for a win, so desperate for the playoffs, so desperate to win the ACC, and they lose to SMU. It just shows you what parity exists in the NCAA this season and what we can expect and how much more fun we're going to have moving forward as we approach the playoffs. Yeah, it's going to be confusing. Yeah, is this what we want? I don't know. But it's going to be fun as we see teams prove themselves in the playoffs, which is what I think the playoffs was built for. It was set up for this exact reason, for parity and for teams to have an opportunity to prove themselves in the toughest test. Boy, the Raiders just keep finding ways to lose. Even then, early in this game, you knew that the Jaguars had luck on their side because Little breaks a record for longest field goal of all time, kicking a 68-yard field goal. 68 yards. Drills that early in the game. So you knew at some point luck was going to be on the side of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it happened, of course, in overtime, where Pete Carroll goes for two. And I love, if you watch any highlights, you'll see Julian Edelman say, well, we all know Pete Carroll loves to throw the ball on the goal line, which is a fantastic jab at Pete Carroll. Speaking of Pete Carroll, he's one of the highest paid coaches in the NFL right now by the Las Vegas Raiders. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Because we're kind of performing like we were performing with Antonio Pierce. Should we just have had that lame duck head coach and sat on that? Because he's the oldest coach in the NFL. He's not here for the long haul, Raiders. Was it worth it? Was it? Because I don't think so. And then the other guy that made the mistake, because you heard the joke I just made, Pete Carroll loves to throw it on the goal line, right? Geno Smith. Traded a third-round pick for Geno Smith. You paid Geno Smith for 3 years of this? This is what Geno Smith is going to give you for 3 years? Are you excited? Are you not entertained by this trash heap and the excuses that Geno Smith puts up every single week? Well, Pete Carroll got his guy, and his guy is going to let him down time after time. Meanwhile, the Jacksonville Jaguars thrust themselves back into the conversation in the AFC South because the Indianapolis Colts go on to lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers out of nowhere. The Pittsburgh Steel Curtain defense was back at home for the Pittsburgh Steelers. TJ Watt destroying that offensive line, that great offensive line. They tried to give it away at the end. They were just unsuccessful because the Colts, they are going to be a good team. I'm done questioning the Colts. The Colts are going to be good moving forward because the Colts did what good teams do, and they continue to put pressure on, and they continue to try for this win, and they almost got it. They almost got there at the end of the game, and unfortunately, Daniel Jones turned back into a pumpkin, but I don't think that transformation is going to be permanent. I think that the Colts are for real. After what we saw against this Pittsburgh Steelers team yesterday, the adversity that they had to face to make that comeback, the Indianapolis Colts are a very real contender in the AFC, and you need to be on notice right now. You need to be watching that team. But Steelers found a way to win, much like the Patriots and the Chargers. Right now, good teams are going to find a way to win. Now, the Chargers have found a way to lose as well. And as much as we hate to say it, it seems like the Patriots found another great quarterback in Drake May. We called that a while back. We thought Drake May was going to be fantastic. It was going to be for us between Jaden Daniels and Drake May for the best quarterback of that rookie class. And right now, with the injury to Jaden Daniels, it's looking a lot like it's going to be Drake May moving forward as the best quarterback from that class. Michael Penix certainly doesn't look like he's it. They could not get it done against the Patriots. The Patriots pulled that game off, and they were really in control for most of that game. It wasn't in question. But you know what is in question? What is in question is the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos were playing against Davis Mills after C.J. Stroud went out with a concussion. They're playing against Davis Mills, and they take it all the way down to the wire again. They had to make one of the – granted, they did it, but again, they made the comeback against the Giants as well. This team is a paper tiger. They are not good, and they will be exposed at some point. I am tired of telling Denver Broncos fans that they're not that good. I am tired of arguing with Denver Broncos fans, the worst fan base in the NFL. I'm just being honest. But at the end of the day, this team is not that good, and they're going to get exposed because you can't live on the edge like this. This is not a team that finds a way to win. They're not up there with the Patriots or the Chargers. I think that the Chargers are overall going to be a better team as they get healthier, as they continue to figure it out under first-year head coach John Harbaugh. But we had 2 games of the week. 2. Chicago Bears Bengals, oddly enough. That Bengals defense, if you're paying attention to the Cincinnati Bengals team right now, you saw that offense, Brown, Jamar Chase, come out and just, they're tired of it. They're tired of putting their bodies on the line, which the defense is doing too, and losing games because their defense can't stop anything. Their defense could not stop a stone from sitting still. That defense is atrocious. And again, they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory and the Bears were done. It was over, and instead of it being over, they allow a giant touchdown pass to Loveland from Caleb Williams. It was insane to watch the collapse. Plus, Cincinnati was rolling that entire game. It wasn't just the end of the game, making that game so exciting. Cincinnati gave that game up in every way they could, every chance they had to give up that game. And then the Lions. The Vikings come back with J.J. McCarthy after Carson Wentz is out now for the season. And J.J. McCarthy puts up a gem again, puts up a phenomenal game against the Detroit Lions, who absolutely needed this game to solidify where they were, especially with the Packers again dropping an unfathomable game to the Carolina Panthers. This game was phenomenal for both teams, the Vikings and the Detroit Lions. But at the end of the day, the Vikings end up pulling it out, and the Detroit Lions are left wondering, what are we actually? What are we? Are we this tough team, this scrappy team that's made the playoffs the last 2 seasons? Or are we a team that drops games we should win? Are we a team without Aaron Glenn as the defensive coordinator, without Johnson as our offensive coordinator, that cannot get it done in the clutch, that cannot beat the teams that we need to beat to continue to assert our dominance, to take advantage of teams like the Packers losing to teams like the Carolina Panthers? It's time for the Detroit Lions to shore up who they're going to be for the rest of the season moving forward. And that game did not do it for them. Of course, the game of the night, which wasn't the game of the week. I gave you the games of the week in the Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings, Cincinnati Bengals, and Chicago Bears. But everybody was waiting for the 2 heavyweights to hit the ring in Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. And let's be honest, this game was a little disappointing, and I don't know if it was quite a playoff preview. I do think, unlike Stephen A. Smith, that the Buffalo Bills are the best team in the AFC. I do. I think they will beat the Chiefs when it comes down to it. I think they're a better football team. I think they will beat the Colts when it comes down to it. I think they're a better football team. But this 28-21 win over the Kansas City Chiefs is not going to solidify that, is not going to prove that. They're still incredibly beatable. And I think by not dominating this game, they prove that. They prove that they're still beatable. But let's give you your winner. Let's end the show with your winner. We won again last week. We're doing really well. We've only got 1 loss in the games that we do this. So we're going to give you the winner this week. The Dallas Cowboys are going to cover the 3.5 points tonight against the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals, though Jacoby Brissett has been playing very well for them, are not going to be able to put up enough points to keep up with Dallas. Dallas just has too much offense. They are going to have an explosion, especially after last week, and they're going to cover 3.5 points, which is an incredibly generous spread to the Arizona Cardinals. Thank you so much for joining us each and every week. And as always, we will see you next time.
Back to the block, I'm scamming. Back in the shop, I'm scamming. Get it off a dummy, I'm scamming. Always get money, I'm scamming.